Towards the second half of the 19th century, people were looking more and more to science and the scientific method to explain things, and to solve problems like food shortages and new factory developments. Realism, defined as the accurate and objective description of the ordinary observable world, replaced romanticism and imagination. The use of realism is extremely evident in the paintings of the time period of the second half of the 19th century. With this movement came many phenomenal American artists. People like John George Brown, Thomas Eakins, and Edward Hopper helped define the realist movement in the United States through their paintings. John George Brown was one of the most successful genre painters of the second half of the 19th century. He was born near Durham, England on November 11, 1831. In order to keep him away from painting, Brown's parents signed him up for an apprenticeship with a glassworker at the age of 14. However, during the later years of his apprenticeship, Brown took evening drawing classes. After continuing his studies in Edinburgh and London, Brown immigrated to the United States in 1853. Settling in Brooklyn, he found work in a glass factory. In the U.S., Brown continued his studies at the Graham Art School, after which, in 1857, he enrolled in the National Academy of Design. Brown immediately began showcasing his works. He became well known and famous for his depictions of the street urchins of New York. These child paintings appealed to the Victorian public. This Victorian era is when childhood started being seen as a special time of innocence. However, it didn't bother the Victorians that poor children had to work ridiculous hours in factories or mines. And despite that, Brown's depictions of the children showed them as happy, well-fed, and almost cherubic. It's said that Brown thought that in order to be appealing to the public, he had to paint below his ability. However, his vast talent is evident in his many paintings. John George Brown died on February 8, 1913. Thomas Eakins is widely recognized as one of the most important artists in American history. Eakins was born on July 25, 1844, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. For the majority of his career, he painted subjects native to his birthplace. He attended the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts after graduating high school in 1861. Also during this time, he was able to avoid fighting in the Civil War, unlike many of his friends, because he was able to pay $25. He then continued studying art abroad in Europe, mainly in France and Spain. Eakins returned home in 1870, where he took up a teaching job at the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. He became the director of the Academy in 1882. His teaching methods at this time were very controversial. He used nude models, dissection, and watched athletes during his classes. Because of these techniques, Eakins was forced to resign in 1886. This caused him severe depression and humiliation, at which point he moved to North Dakota for 2 years. However, right after this dark period is also when Eakins created some of his most famous pieces. Thomas Eakins died on June 25, 1916, in his hometown, Philadelphia. He'd been in declining health for years. Some say his death was caused by lead poisoning from the paints he used. Since his death, Eakins has had a huge influence on the arts, and today he is studied around the world. Edward Hopper was born in Nyack, a small town in New York, on July 22, 1882. Because he preferred to read and draw, Hopper didn't have a lot of friends growing up. By 1899, Hopper had already decided to be an artist. After graduating high school, Hopper went to the New York School of Art to study painting. It was here that he met his greatest influence, Robert Henry, a realist painter that told students to use all aspects of urban life in their art. Hopper briefly traveled to Europe to study art and was especially drawn to Paris, France. When he returned to America, Hopper was struggling. His early paintings, influenced by the French, were not particularly liked by the Americans. During this time, he depended on the income that his sketches and illustrations could provide him, which was very little. Due to this lack of success, Hopper turned to using American subjects in his paintings. His first watercolor series of these American subjects finally brought Hopper success, and at age 42, he could spend the rest of his life painting. His style and subject matter is what brought him fame. He liked painting New England gas stations, motels, and lobbies, and enjoyed capturing the feel of tourists in the area. He often painted people alone or isolated. Edward Hopper died in 1967 in a studio in New York City. While Hopper had no formal students, his work was influential to many young artists of the day.